You are on to DBS TV and this is the news. Ever since the October 24 Kumba massacre, the whole nation has been grieving the cruel assassination of innocent school children. In Bamenda on Tuesday, October 27, women staged a protest march to condemn the killing, accompanied by children and some young men. They marched through different quarters from Bamenda 1, 2 and 3, reaching the governor's office at Up Station. This drew the attention of the governor, Adolphe Lele Lafrique, who came out to share in their pain, give them some words of comfort and promises of justice.
And it is but normal that they should express their mindset, how they are angry, they feel so sorry and complain what happened. That's the reason why, yes, we went to receive them, to address their concerns and reassure them of the determination of the head of state government to stop what is happening. They also instructed special measures that are already started here in Northwest region, in Bamenda in particular, to stop it. But we can't succeed in doing it without the collaboration of everybody.
He as well called on every Cameroonian involving traditional rulers, religious leaders and the civil society to mobilize and put hands together in every way for the return of peace in Cameroon.
The traditional rulers, civil society, population, religious leaders, political leaders, but foremost, it is also a result of the prayers. And that's the reason why we are calling on all the denominations to rally and organize praying session everywhere, including in churches, to beg God and to thank Him who have sustained us, still living despite those that have gone in the present situation.
While holding peace plans and chanting songs of mourning, the women demanded nothing else but the end of the Anglophone crisis and the return of peace. The regional delegate of secondary education for Adamawa region, accompanied by his counterpart from the regional delegation of public health and a representative of the Ministry of Basic Education for Adamawa, carried out an inspection visit in some schools in the regional capital, Ngaoundéré, to evaluate the level of application of barrier measures against the COVID-19 pandemic within schools. 4 weeks into the new school year, the regional delegate of public health, Zakari Yahu Al-Haji, confirms that the measures are globally being followed by students.
We can say that we are satisfied because the majority of school and the student or the classes that we visited, we find out that students are wearing masks, and it's a very good approach. We do hope that with that strategy, wearing the mask, we are going to stop the propagation of COVID-19 in different in our schools.
The team implored the school not to relent their efforts in encouraging students to respect the safety protocols. In the same vein, they drew the attention of stakeholders to do same.
We are appealing also all the stakeholders in this fight to have the Ministry of Secondary Education and Ministry of Public Health and the Ministry of Basic Education in this sense to make sure that students, this one I'm calling for parents, before coming to school, they have to make sure that those students have their mask and they are wearing masks for the propagation, to stop the propagation of COVID-19 in our schools.
Their visit also gave them the opportunity to seize the level of general security measures taken by the authorities, given that the Adamawa region has been a target of sporadic attacks and kidnappings. Situated right at the foot of Mount Ngaoundere is Parkour Vita, a new spacious and high-standard playground and sporting center that just received its last finishing touch after 3 years of construction works. It is one of the projects carried out by the Military Engineering Corps of Ngaoundere, reason for the inspection visit of the Génie Militaire, led by the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, René Claude Meka, who altogether came, saw and affirmed the completion and quality standard, as well as the unique characteristics of the infrastructure.
The Parkour Vita here in Ngaoundere is 40 hectares of land, 20,000 meter of track with 20 obstacles and workstation. We also have a playground for children, an administrative building, a police post and toilet block, and a 3.5 kilometers of fence. So this facility is the work is completed 100%.
Being the fourth Parkour Vita structure in Cameroon after that of Douala, Yaoundé and Bamenda respectively, the Ngaoundere Parkour Vita comes first in terms of size. It serves the purpose of hosting sporting activities of many categories, but also a leisure site for children. This entails that the structure's maintenance is a task for the entire community of Ngaoundere, as the military corps emphasizes.
It is a very huge project who can be maintained if the community can do some collaboration, you know. And then we have here behind me a playground, modulable. Can you use it for playing for children or those 10 or 11, 12 years.
Though complete and fully ready to go operational, the inauguration by the Cameroon Minister of Sport and Physical Education is expected and is programmed to take place before the year runs out. In East Africa, Tanzanians began voting this Wednesday morning to elect their president and members of parliament. The outgoing head of state, John Magufuli, nicknamed the Bulldozer, faces main opponent Tundu Lissu, who has been able to renovate the opposition, largely stifled during the last 5 years. This follows nationwide reports of restricted internet access, plus the unrest of an opposition leader in the semi-autonomous island of Zanzibar. More than 29 million people have registered to vote in the election to decide the fate of President Magufuli, who is seeking re-election. The ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi party has been in power since independence in 1961. Voting was allowed until 4 p.m. local time, and results are expected to be announced within 1 week. Long deemed a country having shown proof of stability in East Africa, local and international observers say Tanzania has seen a worrying crackdown on the opposition and freedom of speech under President Magufuli. In all, 15 candidates are running for president, including former Foreign Minister Bernard Membe, an ex-colleague turned into critic of Mr. Magufuli, who defected from the ruling party and now leads ACT Wazalendo Party. Members of the Kenyan Parliament will have to vote on an amendment to the 2010 Constitution, which will change the presidential system into a hybrid structure that would reintroduce an official role for the leader of the opposition. This comes 2 years after the historic handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Amolo Odinga. The two politicians have both spoken in favor of a report that could put an end to electoral violence. Known as the Building Bridges Initiative, this law is a consequence of the violence that occurred after the election in 2017 and caused 90 deaths. Benin presidential election. The Republican bloc BR party now knows who will carry the party's banner for the 2021 presidential election. President Patrice Talon was chosen at the Unity Palace of Cotonou early this week. This meeting of the political class, which led to the choice of the candidate of the party, is extended to the deputies, ministers and mayors of the Republican bloc. The session, chaired by the party's executive secretary, Minister of State Abdoulaye Bio Chane, lasted for several hours, although no internal resistance opposed the choice. Coming to power in April 2016, following the presidential election of March 2016, with 67.67% of the vote, President Patrice Talon, who has always announced that he is only running for a 5-year term, has not yet given an official statement at this. Beninese voters will be at the polls during the first quarter of 2021 to elect the 7th president of their country since the advent of a democratic change in February 1990. A 27-year-old black man was shot dead in a Philadelphia street on Monday, 26 October, sparking violent protests. The video of a fatal confrontation was recorded by a bystander and posted on social media, showing police officers pointing guns at the protester by name Walter Wallace as they yelled at him to drop his knife. Wallace was hit in the shoulder and chest. One of the officers said that he was then carried in a police vehicle and drove to a hospital where he was pronounced dead a short time later. Hundreds of people took to the streets to demonstrate against the shooting late Monday into early Tuesday, with interactions between protesters and police turning violent. The protest led to the injury of 30 officers, most of them hit with thrown objects like bricks. One officer was still hospitalized on Tuesday with a broken leg after being purposely run over by a pickup truck, police said, and dozens of demonstrators were arrested. In France, President Emmanuel Macron will this Wednesday night announce the government's next move to battle the second wave of the coronavirus during a televised address to the nation at the Élysée Palace. The government is looking at what new restrictions should be issued amid what experts are calling a brutal second wave of COVID-19 infections in the country. His Prime Minister Jean Castex also met with union leaders and opposition party chiefs to explain what stricter measures were now necessary to control the virus spread. Back in March, most of the cases spreading through France and hospitals are filling up quickly. France counted a record of 52,000 new cases on Sunday, but experts say that with many asymptomatic cases, the toll is likely higher. Widespread reports this Tuesday evening suggested Macron and the government are in favor of imposing a 4-week national lockdown from midnight on Thursday, October 29, but with primary schools and public services to remain open. U.S. presidential candidates are making their final push to win over voters in the states where the race will be closed. President Donald Trump is campaigning in Wisconsin, where COVID-19 cases are rising fast, and claimed before several thousand supporters that the coronavirus was going away. Campaigning in Georgia, Democratic presidential candidate, former Vice President Joe Biden said, unlike Trump, he would make tackling the pandemic a priority. So far, nearly 70 million Americans have already voted, a record that could lead to the highest voter turnout in a century. The United States, which has reported more cases and deaths from coronavirus than any other country, is now in the midst of its third surge in cases since the pandemic began earlier this year. Numerous states have expanded mail-in voting access in order to allow people to cast their ballots without fear of contracting the virus while standing in a long line. The president has repeatedly claimed without evidence that such rules will lead to widespread voter fraud. His campaign is encouraging Americans to vote in person. More than 8.7 million cases and at least 225,739 deaths from the virus have been tallied in the U.S., data from Johns Hopkins University shows. With that, we end the news from DBS TV today. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow, same time.